Climate-friendly farming practices for transition towards sustainable agriculture. That's a complicated topic, and you might ask yourself, is that trouble? Or are there any opportunities in there? So let's see. Agriculture. Agriculture is totally man-made system. There is not found in nature. It requires constant attention and work, and provide food for its population. One could say it's one of the pillars of modern civilization. It's also a main source of the food for growing population. It is also a source of raw materials and important, but not appreciated. Farmers are one of the most important custodians of Earth's ecosystem. And agriculture is much more, but we may not forget. Agriculture is market-driven business that delivers what customers want and contributes also to greenhouse gas emissions. And then farmers are not paid to safeguard Earth's ecosystem, and they are constantly under pressure to be competitive, to be profitable, often no matter what. So, is it agriculture, great invention, or trouble? Let's see. First, let's talk about greenhouse gas emissions. According to US source, agriculture is 10% of total emissions. McKinsey and Company claim different. And that brings me to the first conclusion. There is no single data. There are different views, different calculations. And we need additional analysis. So farming is fairly small. Only 1.3% of labor force work in primary production. But when you account activities before agriculture and after agriculture, you are getting to agribusiness, the largest part of US economy. So I'm more in favor of McKinsey data claiming 27% of emissions. And Farm Bill supports the claim. Only a little bit more than 11% is spent on farm. The rest on other activities, agribusiness. And then let's see where those emissions are coming from. Many sources, but two of them are most important. Ruminant animals and rice cultivation, mainly because of flooded fields. And those activities are important. If cattle and dairy cows were state, they would be equal to high-emission countries, all other than China. So tackling dairy, we could do a lot for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And this is universal, regardless of do you have one cow on the farm or you are running CAFO. But we have to admit, CAFO is a bigger problem for environment, for local community, and for animals. Let's see how we stand with the population. First mission of the agriculture. It's growing fast, and it's growing faster than we realize. We are counting with 10 billion people in 2050. That's demanding. And then agriculture is responsible for highly impactful emissions. Those emissions stay for long in the atmosphere. So 45% of methane, 80% of nitrous oxide. And those chemicals are tough. Methane, 84 times more impactful than CO2, and nitrous oxide, 264 times than CO2. It stays for long in the atmosphere. And then, why is it difficult to solve? There are billions of farms to engage. 1 in 4 people is farmer. There are not just few hundred businesses or few thousand businesses you address and the issue is solved. We are talking about billions. And they are running small farms. A lot of small farms. 75% smaller than 3 soccer fields. There are some more reasons. It is not all about farm. Farmers are producing what customers really want. And appears they want ruminant animal proteins much more than recommended, 3 times. And then almost 1/3 of food produced is wasted. This is an issue which is really not sustainable, and we have to change it quickly. And then there are some more reasons. Agricultural emissions were not in focus of agricultural policy, and only less than 40% is accounted into Paris Agreement. There are good, well-prepared documents already in place, but no one acts accordingly and systematically. And in the end, it doesn't matter how good you are at your doorstep. It is a global problem. It requires action by many. So that's why it's difficult to solve. In 2017, I prepared a research on future farm and food supply chains. It appears in the last 40 years, we lost 1/3 of arable land. That is equal to annual loss of the size of one fairly big state, like Bulgaria. For this leap, 2021, I repeated the research. This time, only state was different. It was Greece. But the catch is, Greece is 1.2 times bigger than Bulgaria. So it appears we are losing arable land faster. So agriculture's assignment is to produce food for growing population with less resources. Okay. So the next assignment was to see what's going on with arable land. I expected drop, but surprisingly, there is none. So apparently, we are cultivating same amount of hectares, but those are different hectares. The loss is compensated with intense deforestation, which is also undermining our environment. And let's see why we are losing arable soil. Apparently to inadequate agricultural practices, tillage and overgrazing, combined with deforestation, and here we are. Bottom line, we have less and less arable land per capita. And that's why it's difficult. I owe you just one answer. Are they more cows or people? The world champion is South Dakota, 4.31 in favor of cows. So there are states with more cattle than people. But in general, no. If we count heads, 1.4 billion cows and 7.7 billion people, obviously, people win. But if we plug in the body mass of 500 kilograms of one average cow, body mass-wise, cows win. Difficult to solve. And again, no same data. Let's talk about climate. Climate made history in many occasions so far. Now we are talking, we making the climate. We already polluted, now we would like to clean it. European Commission is spot on. Common agricultural policy introduced green payments. I still didn't figure out why they depict green payments red, but doesn't matter. 30% of direct payments are for environmentally sound agricultural practices, not only from Pillar 1, from Pillar 2 as well. Rural development measures supports greener farming. And then when it comes to measures, European Union identified 12 group of measures that could reduce greenhouse gas emissions. McKinsey and Company goes even deeper. They identify 25 measures and they quantify mitigation potential of each and every measure. And then green recovery, obviously European Union member states are current leaders. It works. I would say we are set in right direction. Now it is about resources and pace. This is very important slides I have to apologize for. Presentation-wise is horrible, but technology-wise is spot on. There is no single measure to improve sustainability of agriculture. There are several groups of measures. Incremental innovations in the field of core technologies. 25 of them, mostly defined by McKinsey and Company. They would improve agriculture, the way how we farm. The next group, key enabling technologies and technologies of Industry 4.0. Those are essential for digitalization of agriculture. They could give what agriculture cannot get on its own. Then, radical innovations. Many of them are still not accepted by customers. Lab-grown meat. But we are getting closer to market and approval of the customer. The next group is outside of agriculture. This is the way how we eat. It's sad. Every year, 9 million people would starve to hunger. But in the same time, almost 2 billion people are overweight and obese. It is obvious we have to change the eating habits. And then we have to manage our resources more carefully, not to waste too much. It is shame to lose what's already produced. And if you wonder why the square number 50 is blank, it's intentional. This is something that EIT Food is especially interested in. It is your possible contribution to the problem or solution of the problem. And we are ready to explore that and help you to make that true. And there is catch-22. Not a single measure from this matrix could solve the problem on its own. They have to be part of the system. Combining them carefully would bring us to possible reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. So let's talk about those partial solutions. So mechanical weeding is expensive, impactful, invasive. It's hard to get labor. Chemical weed control is trouble for environment. So why don't we combine all those Industry 4.0 technologies and produce autonomous weeder? It combines GPS technology, robotics, artificial intelligence. It's cool. But something bothers me with this picture. I don't like these naked fields. We already had innovation like that. So in 30s, moldboard plow, cool invention. It worked really fine. And then several years of drought and wind erosion, we lost almost 30 million hectares on American Midwest. It was impossible to live and hard to farm. They called the place Dustbowl. It was horrible. So what we learned from this particular lesson, this picture is taken much later someplace else, Suffolk, UK, 2015. It seems to me pretty much like Dustbowl. So apparently we didn't learn much. So partial solution to complex problem won't fly. But there are solutions. Permaculture, forest gardens, organic production. They have different set of problem. It's difficult to scale. It's not easy even to operate it at the low level on the homestead, which is not big. To scale it, to be considerable source of food for world population, oh, there is a lot of trouble with that. So conventional agriculture needs totally different set of measures to support compared to organic. We have to be aware there is no one agriculture. Because we have to take care about tiny details like biodiversity, water scarcity, damaged ozone layer, troubles with climate, forceful, winds, floods, flash floods, tsunamis. Then stratospheric aerosol, like volcanic ash, pesticides residue in soil and water, Earth's orbital cycles, well defined by Milenkovic. And then distances our food travel from source of origin to our tables, and many more. For that reason, European Commission has very different initiatives to tackle each and every of those reasons, from water scarcity to recovering our soils. There were great many inventions in the past of agriculture. That's nilometer. It allowed prosper of Old Kingdom tremendously. They were very efficient in fighting drought. Then we had moldboard plow, cotton gin, tractors, combine harvesters, chemical protection, mineral fertilizers, GMO seeds. But always as a part of the system, not as a partial solution. Complex problem, systematic solutions. Let's do the aftermath. We are almost there. Right now, we are about 20 gigatons of CO2, with expected increase for 2050. That bottom line is 23.4. And I said there is no single measure. If we change how we farm, we can reduce emission by 4.6 gigatons. Surprisingly, if we change way how we eat and how much we waste, reduction is even bigger. In the end, if we take care about our forests and carbon sequestrations, we are coming to manageable 5 gigatons, which is in line with 1.5 centigrade's agenda. Okay, there is a way out. And this is powerful portfolio of services provided by EIT Food for different stakeholders. Every group could find what they really want. It is about learning, mentoring, networking, catalytic awards, tools, and publicity. Good news, if you didn't solve the problem with EIT Food, there is more. EIT Food is just one of knowledge and innovation communities. There are other, and we work together. And there is even greater news. TERA Technopolis is specialized entrepreneurial support institutions, and we are one-stop shop for innovative entrepreneurs in agri-food. How we do that? We administrate other parties' programs, EN, EIT, environmental programs, Erasmus for young entrepreneurs, niche programs like BEEP for beekeeping. And since we work off capital, we need custom-made programs. But we choose our portfolio carefully. So we are now Digital Innovation HUB for agri-food in Eastern Croatia. And we join other people initiatives. One cannot do everything. We have to cooperate. We advise that to others, and we do that ourselves. We are almost there. The sad story is not all about humans. It is actually about plants and animals. They don't have air conditioning and heating systems. They cannot adapt as quickly as we want them to. And they are entering state of stress and shock, and we losing yield. It is about soils. Oh, they will recover eventually in several hundred years. The only issue is what we gonna do in the meantime. And then the very last slide. Act. Even a great success story could start with the failure. So what? Dare to be inventor, do unthinkable, imagine what does not exist, and regardless of any setback, turn your dreams into reality. And if you did figure out how we could assist you, write to me, and I'd be glad to do so. Thank you so much.